Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Wherever you are in the world, welcome and thank you for joining us. My name is Carl Anthony and this is AutoVision News live at AutoSens and in cabin from the Auto World Museum in Brussels, Belgium. Broadcasting by the Bugatti Type 49 and Cadillac 341, we are immersed in the history of the automobile while simultaneously embracing its future here at AutoSens and in cabin. We're joined today by Marius Dupuis. He holds a diploma in aerospace engineering. Now, after an initial engagement in engineering flight simulation, he became co-founder and general manager of Vires Simulation Technology and grew the company to a leading provider of environment simulation solutions for ADAS and autonomous driving systems. Marius is one of the original authors of the simulation data standards, and there's three of them: Open Drive, Open CRG, and Open Scenario. He was responsible then for transferring these standards to ASAM, and ASAM is what we're going to talk about today. Marius, welcome and thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Carl, for having me here.
Indeed.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's a nice environment.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And from all of us here, let us, glad to have you at AutoSens. Let us be the first to welcome you. But tell us, Marius, a little bit about ASAM and tell us about the work that you're doing.
Well, ASAM is, formally speaking, the Association for the Standardization of Automation in Measuring Systems, which is such a long title for a lot of work that we do.
Yes.
Basically, we are an association of the automotive industry.
Yes.
So we were founded in the late 90s, last century.
Okay.
And we provide a pre-competitive platform where people can basically convene and talk about things they want to standardize, like
Yes.
communication protocols,
Yes.
data formats, and so on. My role there is I'm now the CEO of ASAM, so I have to run the organization somewhat. It's a global organization. We have meanwhile more than 400 members, and a member for ASAM is always an institutional member. So no personal membership. There's always OEMs, tier ones, suppliers,
Sure.
academics or academic institutions. We have 400 of them all over the globe. We have a strong base in China and in Japan.
Excellent.
We are in North America, and well, the biggest part of the membership is still in the European region.
Of course, of course. Now, one of your areas of interest is around the standardization of data formats and data exchange protocols, and how that may influence the speed and quality of product implementations. For our viewers, I'm lifting some of this from an email that Marius and I exchanged beforehand, so I'm reading this almost verbatim. But in this context, especially when it comes to testing highly automated driving systems in virtual and real-world environments. So can you share with us, Marius, why this is important and why this is one of your areas of interest, going back to our email that we had exchanged the other day?
Yeah, I'm still also trying to understand what I'm doing. But anyway, no, the thing is, my background is from the simulation business. As
Right.
I said, I had a company in simulation business, and the key there is to do a digital twin of the real environment and to simulate these X billion of miles that need to be done in virtual environments to make sure automated driving systems are safe. Now we have the situation that there are tool suppliers, there are users of these tools,
Yes.
and you want to be able to choose data sets and tools along your specific needs and along the, let's say, the performance that the tool can provide you with and the features.
Right.
But you don't again and again.
Yes.
So this means if there's a means to describe what you want to do in terms of scenarios, road environments, road surfaces, and whatever it might be,
Right.
even your operational design domain, in a standardized format, and you can take it from tool A to tool B over the time of the development. Let's say you start with software in the loop and billions of miles, you go to hardware in the loop at a later stage in development, you do that in real time. You want to make sure that the money you spend on creating the data by working with these tools, that this is preserved and that you can reuse all that data, all these assets again and again. And this will only work if all of these tools understand the same language. So I take tool A, provide the first gigabyte of data with that, then I switch to tool B because it's, let's say, better fit for a certain different task. I want to reuse all of that data. Now, if there's no agreement in the industry how the data is to be stored or how it's going to be communicated and how during a simulation you want to have data going forth and back, then you start reinventing the wheel again and again.
Yes.
You have to make sure it's working, you have to make sure the quality is sufficient, etc. And this is where standards in the simulation domain, and there's many other applications that we have in the simulation domain are very important.
Yes.
You're free to choose the right tool for the right point in the development, and you can reuse all the assets you have created before.
Right. Certain users, OEMs for example, they can only avoid vendor lock if their data is stored in standard formats that are widely accepted by the industry. So share with us what this means, Marius, and then ultimately why this is important.
I think it's getting back to it's a different aspect of the same point. If you start a new development of a new vehicle, for sure you will look for the tools that provide you with the features that you need for the first stage of your development. Let's say you want to see where do I place my sensors.
Yes.
How do I want to see whether my actuators would work in a certain setting of scenarios, and so on. If you do it with one tool, that's good.
Right.
If you want to migrate to the next step in your development phase, and you might have to switch the tools because you might need a different kind of sensor simulation, you might need a different kind of traffic simulation.
Right. Right.
Then you don't want to wait for that vendor to develop all the features if there's someone else in place.
Right.
And you want to be locked into that vendor. This is the vendor lock, and you want to take your data out of the domain from the first stage into the domain of the next stage.
Right.
And
right.
So by avoiding this and by having these open standards that we have, you provide things once and you can use them many times. And the other aspect there is, in the future there will be some data sets, and we heard it here at the conference yesterday, where scenario databases will be recommended by the European Commission.
Okay, yes.
Unless these scenario databases are described in a format that everyone can digest, it will be too much effort to describe them for each other tool.
Right, right.
And they will not be reusable. And so this is also one of the big things. It's not so much to keep people from selling their stuff, which is excellent.
Right.
It's about reusing all the stuff all the time.
Which makes sense. As, again, I go back to the email. Marius and I were exchanging some emails prior to this interview, prior to AutoSens here, but going back to that prior email, you mentioned that emerging standards tend to be adapted quite heterogeneously and sometimes also inconsistently. So why is this important to address?
Yeah, with ASAM we have developed in the so-called OpenX domain in the past 4 to 5 years quite a series of standards.
Right.
One example is Open Scenario. In Open Scenario, you describe, for example, for a test setup, how actors should move, in what timing, with what actions, on what road they should move, etc. Now this is the standard. The standard is a description, and all the features that you can implement are described in the standard.
Right.
If tool vendors, one tool vendor might focus more on a certain set of actions, the other tool vendor might focus on a different set of actions when implementing this.
Sure.
This would make my previous statement, where I said you want to go from vendor A to vendor B seamlessly, would render this irrelevant if there's not enough overlap in how they adapt or adopt the standards, these different tool vendors. So what we need to make sure is, first, the standards are clear enough. There's no room for interpretation. Second, we need to agree on how you should start to adapt the standards. Which means you start with the same feature set on different sides, and I gave a talk about this morning here in the conference.
Yes.
And so you start from the same core, and then you grow the standards coverage over time.
Right.
But if tool vendor A and tool vendor B, or let's say implementer A or B, are implementing different parts of the standards, and the overlap is too small, then you're again locked into one or the other solution. This is what I'm trying to say by too heterogeneous adoption of the standards.
Makes sense. Marius, for those in our AutoSens community who want to get involved with ASAM and who are interested in learning more, what are the benefits for doing so?
The benefits are, you have these 400 members. which represent basically everything you have in the automotive industry.
Right.
And this means it's a platform where you meet the people with like-minded, mindset.
Yes, makes sense.
With like mindset, and once you are in ASAM, and you
Yes.
have an idea of what you want to standardize,
Yes.
you just need to find two other parties who have the same idea or who share the idea and want to go with you, and then we can start a standardization project
Right.
within the domains that we cover.
Right. Right.
So this means ASAM is very agile in terms of how we develop the standards. If you want to get to a standard very fast, or if you want to also just do a concept stage of a
Yes,
standard, you
yes.
can do it with ASAM, and then you can see where you want to develop that. And this is a clear benefit. All you have to be is, of course, you have to be a member with ASAM.
Right.
But as I said, 400 other institutional people have done it before, so
Yeah.
it should be easy to do.
It's good to have it's good to be around like-minded people and like-minded organizations.
Correct. It's a community. It's as I said, it's international, so you can talk to you. We have standards that were developed in Japan that are adopted worldwide, so we can also interconnect all the regions in the world.
Of course. Want to encourage all of our AutoVision News viewers and our AutoSens and in-cabin attendees to learn more about ASAM. I'm going to do so myself by visiting their website. Marius, I want to thank you for your time. All of us here from AutoSens and AutoVision News want to wish you the best of luck going forward. And thank you for your time and your thought leadership.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thanks a lot.